myself, some background, you've heard I'm a medical doctor originally, so I studied something completely different than I'm doing today. I studied in Austria, started to become a trauma surgeon, and I was working in a hospital. I was miserable doing this, and I felt I was really missing my freedoms and trying out new things. So I quit working as a medical doctor and I moved to Asia. And here I met my two future co-founders, or co-founders now, Toby and Paul, and together we started a cryptocurrency company. And our major thing in cryptocurrencies was, how can we make these cryptocurrencies usable? And so basically what we started 2 years ago here in Singapore, we're Singapore-based, is an app that you can download from the App Store. It's called TenX app. And you can download it on the iOS app or on Android, and you can fund it with cryptocurrencies. And then you can order a debit card, and that debit card can be linked to those cryptocurrencies. What this allows you to do is it allows you to spend Bitcoin, Ether, Dash, and many, many tokens in real life. Online, offline, 38 million different stores all around the world. We have over 100,000 users now, and it's quite an exciting business. We're in Clark Key Central with over 40 employees, so the business is really scaling exponentially. And it's been quite a lot of fun, and we've been doing really well, especially because in June, we did one of the largest ICOs up to date, where we received an equivalent of $80 million worth of cryptocurrencies. So obviously, we're quite well funded, and it's a very innovative and new kind of process how we receive money. Now, for those of you that don't know what an ICO is, really fast, an ICO is basically, you as a company create your own cryptocurrency. For us, this means we created a loyalty program. Whenever our users use our app, they collect these tokens, and our token holder, these coin holders, receive additional rewards from the system. It's just like a KrisFlyer program from Singapore Airlines, just on a decentralized manner. And so if you're interested in this, you can actually still buy these tokens. You can go on a website called bitrex.com. If you want, you can buy these tokens and participate in that loyalty program. But now's the more interesting part. For those of you that know about cryptocurrencies, you know that this kind of ecosystem is quite anonymous. People in the ecosystem love not to reveal their identity. They prefer to be anonymous. But so now we have this fundraiser that many times causes some legal challenges or some legal questions. And the major question is, should you do proper KYC for AML reasons, for counter-terrorist financing reasons? Should you do this, yes or no? And this is actually quite a challenging question, because in this ecosystem of cryptocurrencies, people don't want to reveal their identity. But so on the other hand, they have this opportunity in participating in things, in financial benefits that otherwise are not really possible. Now obviously, when we did our ICO, we had a lot of questions ourselves. And that was, if we do the ICO with proper AML and proper KYC, it's going to be a lot easier for us to get a bank account. It's a lot easier for us to get an exchange account. It's a lot easier to exchange crypto into fiat because we can prove where these funds are from. And at the end of the day, it's a lot easier for us to be compliant. Now, all these upsides weigh in on potential downsides. The potential downsides is, who would love to participate in an ICO if we suddenly ask them for a verification, and everybody else, they don't need that? Up until our ICO, there was pretty much no ICO that was done with any KYC check, with nothing. There were some exceptions here and there, but it was very, very minuscule. So for us, this decision was quite challenging because we didn't know what would be the effects if we asked for identification from the people. You need to put this on the scale. Yes, you can have all this extra compliance and traditional finance will like you more, but on the other hand, what happens if you completely fail? And this was a real challenge. So, would we receive enough money if we asked for identification or not? And actually today, it looks completely different, but today, and this is what we did, right? I'm gonna tell you what, in my opinion, state of the art is today. This is what we did in our ICO in June. And please understand, this is what we did based on the entire ecosystem not doing anything. We basically layered it, and we asked ourselves, how can we cover the majority of the money contributed while only affecting the least amount of people? So 20-80 principle. How can we only talk to few people but still cover most of the money? And so we did some analysis based on other ICOs, and then basically on some questionnaires with our users. And we said, okay, how can we cover maybe over 90% of all the money? And we can put in a risk kind of layering. So what we came down to it is, if anyone wanted to contribute more than 25,000 US dollars equivalent, we asked for full KYC. That means proof of address, younger than 90 days, and full proof of identity, standard. For those that did between 1,000 US and 24,999 US, we basically did a full name, email, and we checked the IP address. We did not ask them for proof of that. That was because, based on our calculations, we're gonna have quite a group of people here that, from a risk perspective, are okay not to have all the verification, but we still wanted to have some documentation. And anyone that did less than 1,000 US dollars, all we had was the IP address, because we had that anyways from the participation, and that was it. So that is what we did. And what happened was, obviously, we had a little bit of complaints from some users, and we had users threatening not to participate. But at the end of the day, it was a really, really nice kind of mix of compliance versus staying native in the ecosystem. Now, since then, and this is only 4 months ago, since then we've had a drastic change in how ICOs are being done. And I'm going to tell you now the state of the art, how anyone, in my opinion, should be doing it right now. And that is doing complete, full KYC on any amount. This is not only tolerated by the community now, it's actually expected. And you see this with so many ICOs that are happening now. In my opinion, the ICOs that are not doing full KYC are the ones that I would be very wary of. And this is really interesting. If you look at what just happened in 4 months. So when we did this, we were really scared. And today it's, if you don't do full KYC on everyone, then you should be scared. And I think the future is going to be that this is actually going to be expected from the regulator. At the moment, this is still voluntary. MAS has sent out an advisory beginning of the week when the FinTech Festival started, when it talked about tokens. And KYC and AML was pretty much only scratched. It didn't go too much deeper. But I truly expect in the next couple of months, more and more regulators all around the world to really ask for full KYC, full identification of anyone participating. And I think that's actually a really, really good thing. How would this look like from a user flow? And this was the user flow that we used, and it basically would work for any kind of system as well. So basically, you need to start with the KYC process prior to when you do the ICO. So let's imagine you do the ICO on the 1st of December. This is just an example. So you plan on doing it on the 1st of December. Then you can't start with the identification process on the same day, because otherwise this is going to delay everything. We basically started around 2 weeks before. We had a so-called pre-sale, and during this pre-sale, we started already with the identification process. So what you do is, you have the person sign in, log in, register, fill in their name, address details, upload their passport, upload their proof of identification, obviously email address, phone number. You do full KYC on them. And then, and this is optional, you can do this or not, you can run these names against an AML database. There are some that are a bit cheaper, there are some a bit more expensive. I would highly recommend that if you want to do that for really staying on the very, very safe side. And again, this might sound a bit strange and tricky, but honestly in this ecosystem, this is really way more accepted than some of you might think. And then you approve the potential token buyer. And normally it depends on how big your team is. If you have, let's say, a couple of hundred participants during your ICO, this is maybe going to take you per person a couple of hours. So if you have a bit of a waiting list, it might take you 2 or 3 days until everyone is in this approval stage. And what this allows you to do is, it really allows you to document on a money flow where many people, especially crypto, say, you know, this is always this weird kind of system. You don't know what happens to all that money. Well, but now you can really document. And here's the great part. Let's imagine you receive $1 million. Then you can document where these $1 million from. Who sent them? What happened? You can document all these things. So, an excuse by many banks said, you know, we can't give you a bank account because we don't know what happens to where your money is from. Well, this excuse is no longer valid because you actually do have proof of where that money is from. And this is something that's really important. And there is a very interesting law that it's not a real law, but it's kind of a regulation. And the regulation is companies should not disqualify the technology of a payment. And what this means is, it shouldn't matter if you can prove that someone has a very low risk of money laundering, whether that person is using cash as a payment, a bank transfer as a payment, a credit card, or a cryptocurrency. That shouldn't disqualify that person. So for you as a company, this means, if you can prove that all these funds come from legitimate sources, you shouldn't be disqualified for using a newer type form of, not a legit tender yet, but some form of payment. And that is a really, really good start for many companies to have a really solid foundation. If you do all these things, and honestly, this is a really, really small step in the entire ICO process. You're not only part of some really exciting ecosystem, because obviously ICOs bring huge, huge, huge opportunities, but also from a legal standpoint, you really stay on the safe tracks, and that's at the end of the day what you want to do. And it allows you, for economic purposes, to be way faster and way stronger. For if this is something that's interesting for you as a potential business, you should do this. If you're interested as a potential token buyer, look for companies that do such a process, because it obviously shows that they take this part really serious, and it kind of lays the foundation for their future success. So, this was my short kind of intro to this. If you have any questions, I will be very open, and otherwise, I say thank you so much. Are there any questions so far, or from the audience? All clear? Fantastic. Where's Ian? Oh yeah, sure. Let's do one question. Otherwise, I'm going to pass it on to Ian.
Thank you so much. It's a very good conversation. And I think we did this for all ICO. One question is this going to help you get a bank account and working again? And how can you get it?
So at the moment it doesn't, because banks don't really accredit that process yet. I've just had a really good talk with MAS in the beginning of the week, and we're definitely going to continue that talk. And I think the more companies come forward to MAS and kind of document on how they do everything from a legit stance, MAS is very open to that. I think it's just not been enough focus on going to the banks and actually telling them, hey, listen, stop bullying these companies. These companies are just as legit as every other company. So at the moment, it's not going to help you right now. But let's say in the next couple of weeks, months, I think this is going to lay a foundation for that. Okay. So right now, this is, I know in all of Singapore, it's a bit of a challenge with that. But I think Singapore is open, and MAS, I think, is very innovative. So I think it's going to be quite good. Thank you. Fantastic. Ian. No one's listening? Who's next? One question in the back?
Yeah, so the regulations around AML and KYC are usually based not just on where you are, but where your customers are. Can you talk about how you push those regulations into account, particularly in the US?
Great question. I mean, the easy answer to that was we excluded the US. So we didn't want to deal with that. I would highly recommend that anyways during an ICO process that has nothing to do with KYC and ML. It has just to do with that the SEC is very unpredictable, the Security Exchange Commission in the US, and you don't really know how they view certain processes or certain things. So we didn't want to deal with that. How we came up with those numbers, to be honest, it was purely talking to the users. There was no reference point, and there still is none, right? I'm not saying what I'm telling you here is the right way, because there is no right or wrong. This is just my personal recommendation of what I have seen when I talk to other industry leaders, to other companies, what they appreciate and how they see certain things. So ours was just more of an approach on what could work and what couldn't work. There is no experience.
Maybe a follow-up that, since you mentioned the SEC, how are you keeping the tokens out of the hands of Americans in the secondary market?
We're not, and so far that's has been no problem. But let's see. I mean, you not know. It's a very young kind of system at the moment. It's fine. I mean, they're not buying the tokens from us, right? So they're buying the tokens from someone else. So since it's a decentralized system, it's not in our hands anymore. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Julian, what's your take on corporates versus individuals participating in an ICO?
Fantastic question. To be honest, I have never thought about it. In ours, it was we only allowed individuals So we didn't allow corporates per se to participate, which means we didn't really, I mean, it's impossible to check who owns the account where the money is coming from. That's not possible in the crypto ecosystem because there is no direct link. But we didn't accept any documents from companies. So whenever we received, let's say that we received $500,000, then we asked who is the person responsible, who is that person that that transfer belongs to. So that would be my answer. I haven't thought about it enough to kind of think about what would be certain, I would need to think about implications of companies versus individuals. We only had individuals. Great, thank you so much. I wish you a fun rest of the event and thanks, good afternoon.